Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast series powered by citiesabc.com, openbusinesscouncil.org, and fashionabc.org. Once again, here we continue with our series of interviews with world leaders, trying to discuss the biggest topics of our times, and especially understanding how leadership can actually make bridge between business, finance, technology, and all the different things that we have when it comes to our challenges as business, as organizations, as professionals. This YouTube podcast has been growing quite significant, and in the end of the day, it's all about the people that we bring here. And we are very excited today to welcome to our series Kareem Refaay. That is a fantastic personality in the world of business and finance. Is the managing director for Middle East and Asia, and the GCC for all the areas of Gulf Council countries at the London Institute of Banking and Finance, a registered charity incorporated by the Royal Charter and focus on financial education. It's actually a very powerful organization, quite well known for the world of finance, and we're going to be talking about that. So Kareem has over 18 years of experience as a financial educator, but as well as executive of top financial inclusion financial institutions, such as the GCC Financial Institutions, including especially Standard Chartered Bank, National Bank of Abu Dhabi, Gulf International Bank, and Hilal Bank. Kareem holds a bachelor degree in management science from the Sadat Academy for Management and Sciences, a diploma in international business from the University of Cambridge, and an MBA in strategical management from the University of Atlanta. Kareem has led the learning and development, and his focus has been always in looking at business between especially the Gulf area of Middle East, but as well all the Middle East and Asia and Africa and Europe. And as well in terms of his positions that he had in terms of leading and work with the National Bank of Abu Dhabi, has been Assistant Vice President Learning and Development, and as well a Group Talent Manager. And his experience in terms of finance and banking is quite broader, and especially in his role right now in the London Institute of Banking, he oversees the organization development in providing financial qualifications at GCSE levels and A levels degrees in banking and finance, postgraduate qualifications, and professional qualifications. As a global thought leader, he has appeared in multiple talk shows and has moderated big events, including the WETEX in Dubai Solar Show, where he moderated sessions about climate finance in the MENA region, which is one of the things we're going to be talking. And as well, a lot of has been talking in a lot of global outlets like Bloomberg News and different areas. So one of the things we're going to be talking is about his experience and as well his fantastic achievements on the London Institute of Banking and Finance. So welcome to our series, Kareem.
Thank you, Dinis. Thank you for having me.
So Kareem, you have quite a kind of a different part of the equation. You start with big organizations in finance and you end up in education. And actually education is one of my passions, especially the areas of finance and even me, I've been actually learning a lot after my education on finance, and it's one of the biggest challenges. But I want to start with your background. So I know that you come from Egypt, but you are a citizen of the world. As we speak, you are in London, I think, but you normally are a bit in a lot of different areas of the world. So if you can tell us a bit of your background and how do you achieve this fantastic career that is still in the beginning, but actually going in fantastic eyes.
Yes, thank you so much, Dinis. The introduction made me reflect on the journey, although it is at the point you don't feel that it's been that long journey, but still more to come. But to be honest, I come originally from Egypt. I did my bachelor degrees over there. Then I started being more of an active world citizen of the world in working for London Institute of Banking and Finance. Now at my capacity, I look after GCC and Middle East, and as well constant travel between Europe, London, the region over here, trying to work with our subject matter expert colleagues in the Institute and outside the Institute through our alumni and thought leaders to be able to support the education most challenging times. Now, I would say that in the past, like 100 years of banking and finance, the recent 10 years are the most critical years of the industry. And actually, we're working towards like, not myself, but I think the industry, all practitioners are trying to find ways of the face of the industry in the future.
So let's go through your career. So starting in big financial organizations and coming back to education is a big trajectory. And a lot of people, I've been as well teaching, but I always kept my corporate side. You decided to go to education. Of course, it's a big organization. For the people, we'll talk about the London Institute. But before that, so tell us a bit about how do you shift from corporate level in big banks and big international financial organizations to choose education, which is a big thing right now. But how did you make that decision on the corporate level and as well on the professional level?
To be honest with you, Dennis, like we sometimes people try, especially in interviews, they try to maybe make their journey looks like a planned journey. I would be really interested to tell you that I never planned where I am now. Okay. It's like I got my bachelor degree in banking and finance. And typically, classically, I would work for my first job in a bank or a financial institution, which I did in financial advice, then in SME banking. Then I was thinking that my journey would take me into a technical roles in banking and finance. Then suddenly I was scouted internally in Standard Chartered and in National Bank of Abu Dhabi to move to trading, because they were looking for someone who understands business, who can support training and education. Then I did that job. Then from that, I started getting more passionate about human capital development and education in the industry. Did some more studies around that topic. I was always then called the guy in HR who understands business. And on the HR side, they say, oh, the guy who is an HR guy, but I know some business. So like I was able to fit between both functions, business and HR. And that helped me a lot in my career to be able to support the transformation and education happening internally in an organization. Then recently, in the past 5 years, when I joined LIBF, I felt this is the position where I can not only influence one organization, but I can work with different organizations to support that transformation of the industry going forward. So it wasn't planned, but I was lucky enough to have a better plan than I was expecting about my career.
And the education is a big thing, is a big industry, but as well something that is really very incipient. So let's start by, if you could tell us about the London Institute of Banking and Finance. That is a major organization founded in 1879 as the Institute of Bankers. So it's quite a very reputable organization, not so well known probably of the public, unless you are in the financial industry. But I would like to talk about that and the work you guys are doing.
Yeah, so 1879, a group of bankers in London City, they felt there is a need for an association or an institute or a foundation that could support the progress of the industry and the development of bankers, to solve challenges related to technical competency, compliance, industry repetition, bankers repetition. And from that point, it started progressing year on year for the 144 years now, or 43 years now, as an institute, as an education provider, as a think tank for the future of the industry. And now we stand in an organization that is very diversified in its solution when it comes to education, but very specialized in topic, which is only education relevant to banking and finance. Our motivation is lifelong education partner. So if you start with an age of school level, we teach our financial education programs in schools, level 1, 2, 3 education in schools for supporting new generation of financial savvy and financial educated citizens. Then we move towards our university degrees. So we have our university campus. We are the only university in the financial district of London. You came and visited our offices in London, and we are the only university campus in there. And I think you've been able to spot some of our undergrads, students studying out of our campus in London. And we are the only university who holding indefinite, in financial education, banking and finance, holding 2 degree awarding powers, indefinite 2 degree awarding powers in the UK. And so now, if you're a child, you can learn our programs. If you're a teen, you can get into our undergrad. If you graduate, you can do our postgraduate degrees, MSCs, diplomas, and those kind of education. Then as well, the professional education, the vocational education. When you start being a practitioner and you're looking for that vocational education. So we provide a lot of brand names around the world that's very famous qualification that it is being the benchmark of technical competency like trade finance qualifications, CDCS, CDSGs, and CertPay and other qualification, trade finance, mortgage advice, CMAP, financial advice, international banking and finance qualifications, foundation, intermediate, and advanced level, which is all of these kind of qualification in itself, it's a brand. Not only the institute is a brand, it's a brand within practitioners of validation of technical competency. So, and this is as long as you go with your career, as long as we can provide you with vocational education. So that's where we come from as a lifelong learning partner. We are a practitioner-led education. All of us are bankers by descent, I would say. So we all worked in banks. We know about banking. And we're learning from colleagues, and we're learning also from the community. So we are very interactive brand, where we work with alumni, thought leaders, world-renowned institutes and individuals to support the further education, not only in the UK, but also around the world through our offices in MENA and APAC, and through our international and strategic alliances with different local Institute of Bankers. In the journey, we've been called 3 names. So we started as an Institute of Bankers, then IFS, Institute of Financial Studies. Then recently, we've been rebranded to the London Institute of Banking and Finance, which is the current name for us.
So education in finance is increasingly more complex and more necessary because, of course, with especially the advent of fintech, financial and technology, things are really much more complex, because in one end you have still the conventional legacy systems, you have the present new systems, then you have all the kind of areas of cryptocurrencies and everything that is happening with the blockchain revolution. But there's a huge component as well of how you push the bridge between the traditional areas of banking, the alternative parts, and the technology. So how are you looking at these things? Because it's one of the things that is very important for our audience and for me personally, because I'm quite interested in the advance of finance. And as well, you have another layer that is the financial inclusion, which I know that is very dear to you and to the organization.
So the London Institute of Banking and Finance, well ahead of other banking and finance education provider, we established 3 centers of excellence. One related to risk and governance, which I always call that we are a risk-oriented industry. And risk will be always, regardless of the transformation, the core spine of the industry. We take risk, we make money out of risk, we make profit out of risk, and taking the right measures towards risk and governance and compliance keep you and keep your customers and keep everyone in the ecosystem of financial services safe. That's one center. The second center is related to sustainable finance and sustainability, which is a very important topic for us. It's a core topic for us as an employer, as a education provider, and as well as a institute that actively participates in its own region and in different jurisdictions. Support the further education about that topic, and to find ways of active contribution of banking and finance industry into the world challenge and dilemma around sustainability. The third center of excellence is about fintech and digital transformation, where we provide a lot of education in relationship to fintech and digital transformation. And I would stop here in the last 2 centers: sustainability and sustainable finance, and the fintech and digital transformation. Those 2 topics are everywhere in the world, are emerging topics. And what I mean by emerging topics is topics that in certain markets might be ahead of the curve, but still doesn't mean that the industry have settled towards a common practice of digital transformation and fintech. And some other countries who are trying to find their own ways into doing that, and other countries who are in the journey of it. That's very important for us when we talk about fintech or sustainable finance, because there's no one size fits all. And one of the pretty objectives of the institute is not to be international provider of education and international provider of a benchmark, but as well work with all our local clients on a basis of appreciation of culture and local implications toward the application of such topics, where we can find how we can support the journey their own way, making sure that this journey meets the overall objectives of its own clients or its own economics parameters. So that's mostly it when we talk about that. If we want to look to it from a different dimension as a practitioner, there is also two dimensions of the challenge for that. People still wanted to understand, which we are very interested in, what's going to be the future jobs and roles in the industry after this transformation. So then banks will be run by machines and no one would need human in that perspective. And if you try to answer this question, classically, all the industry that had technical transformation, this was the classic question they've been asking. And still we can see human doing that. We have robots who can do surgeries, but still doctors are required to do those surgeries as well. So it didn't eliminate the human factor. So that's for example. The second dimension of the digital transformation and fintech is it's always looked at as a cost saving. So all banks are doing this or regulators are pushing for that because that will save cost inside the industry. And that will make the industry error-free. I can guarantee you not. The digital transformation is not driven by only a cost-saving option. It's driven by also customer centricity, improving turnaround time, SLAs, making sure that the human interaction with the client is mostly to make sure of client education, client support, than actually being for transacting, which could be possibly replaced by different machines. It's also choosing the AI and the advanced technology in making better risk-oriented decisions, in knowing our customers more, in leveraging the massive data available out there in the web and in different forums. So that's also another element. The third element, that digital transformation, which we are very interested in to explore even more, has a correlation to the sustainability and sustainable finance. It's minimize your footprint into the environment. It support the digital footprint is less impactful to the environment than actually the physical footprint. So how this could support the ability of banks to operate remotely now. Core banking systems access from your own home. It was a kind of a challenge before. So how many employees now don't need to go to office where they create emissions or green or not supporting by creating more of a challenge to the environment. So there's so many aspects. So you cannot say now, Dinis, that this is defined. And if anyone tries to say like, oh, I have the solution or I have the definition, I would say it's too early about that, because even till date, from a risk perspective, which is the classical job of a bank, is to manage risk. There's different risk appetites for banks. Some banks take more risk and find more profitability in that. Some banks take less risk and more on fee transaction based. So the industry never been historically having one definition for any technical dilemma. And we wouldn't have one definition for sustainability or fintech, but we will have a common knowledge and different practices. Common knowledge that this is the knowledge required, and different practices is where we will take different risks towards those two new agendas.
So one of the things that I'm particularly interested is, okay, when it comes to the core of education, is really, like you said, the relationship between the core of education and the relationship with the industry. So how do you see that part going forward, being in mind that you were created within the City of London by the Institute of Bankers initially as the Bankers Association are related? So what is this relationship between you guys and the industry, which I think is key for any kind of educational institution, but as well for the industry, because in the end of the day, any company needs to work with education and keeps continuous education.
So most likely we actively manage our relationships in three dimensions. Like I would say B2B, actively participating with the organizations in the ecosystem we're working in, regulators, banks, financial institutions, financial services, through direct education, qualification, executive education, online degrees, different things. Then the second dimension is related to the B2C, where we try to work more with students or practitioners to support their self-learning appetite and career progression and ambition. And that's through our programs and through our qualifications as well. That is mainly meant to that perspective. And the third dimension is with our community of graduates, our alumni, which we are so proud of their existence, more than 1.5 million in more than 121 countries, you know, from very senior C-level suite positions to junior fresh grads who just used our programs to bridge into the industry. And we actively work with them. We are so honored, especially in Middle East, of our diversity of education. So 83% of our students are female below age 25. For example, we have a rising intakes of our courses by native citizens of the region who are leveraging the British education qualities toward their future career ambitions. So at the end of the day, it's not about us or it's not about our heritage. It's about the community altogether interacting and being dynamic towards common goals.
So at the moment, so there's a huge component of technology and fintech on the financial industry. And one of the things I've been finding is the difficulty of having people that understand these things. Even people within the financial industry, they understand one thing, they try, and of course it's a very complexity because, of course, like you said, if you are studying banking in the UK, which is of course one of the capitals in the world, is still probably number one or number two, is different from studying in Africa or in the Middle East or in Asia. So how do you see these global trends in terms of studying in the UK and with an institute like yours, and then studying abroad, because you are as well responsible for Middle East, Africa, and Asia, which is of course the fast-growing areas of the world?
I don't want to kind of tag or unify differences between markets as much as I would say maybe in Europe they are now let's take it from even North America, in Canada, US, and that side of the industry, they are more focused on the digital transformation and fintech when it comes to either corporate solution, blockchain and data and open finance, and mostly on trading options, which is related to trading platforms and cryptos and such digital currency and digital future investment options. Then we moved a little bit down to Europe. Europe is mostly a hybrid between consumer retail experience and SME, corporate banking transformation. So we can say they are more well-rounded in Europe about solutions. The challenge in the North America is mostly related to the geographical spread. Countries like Canada and US is like very big countries with big populations, and they have a spread of technical challenges also about the internet connectivity and quality of internet in certain remote areas. So still that affect them in the digital transformation and consumer level. But for example, in Europe, we speak about more less sized countries and concentrated population around major cities where that is easier. Then we move down a little bit to Middle East and Africa and GCC. And this is a kind of a widespread because we have countries where it's very low populated, but they have high GDP. So digital transformation is a solution for the shortage of human manpower. And that's why they use it on also as a spread from digital transformation in consumer retail, and also trying to empower SMEs through finding solutions around the SMEs, and also adding the flavor of the region, which is the digital fintech transformation for Islamic finance as well, you know, which is very interesting topic about how they can do Islamic Sharia compliant transaction in a digital transformed perspective, because there is a bit of a implementation challenge in those kind of topics, and we can talk in details about this. And then we talk about Africa, where we have higher populations and low GDP, so they still finding ways about what could be the future digital transformation. We see some pockets of development, like in Nigeria, in North Africa, but still South Africa as well. But still, like it's a bit early steps, or still like not too much steps. If we go directly to Asia, top in Far East, Japan, Asian side, we can say things are pretty techy over there for banks and digital transformation, especially speaking that side of the world. But still, there is also certain challenges about emerging markets and risk appetite, and significant transactions that is require more attention towards the implication on return on investment. Then if we go down to Australia, for example, Australia is very advanced when it comes to technology and banking. We see banks over there that able to complete transactions in a very, very, very innovative way, in mortgage and auto loans, and through digital banking and wallets, for example, in Australia and New Zealand, I mean. So actually, even going throughout the world now, we found the diversity and the appreciation of local needs and the implication of economics into every country when making their own decisions about that. The only common thing that we can say, that everyone understand how integral and what is important, is to do the digital transformation. The industry require an upgrade. And this will only happen through digital transformation. And that digital transformation journey comes with different sets of skills. So now we hear a lot about agile working, Scrum techniques, all these kind of things. So even it's not only about the machines, it's also about people. How people mindset will digitally transform the industry. That's why there's a lot of skills required. So those kind of things are common, about empowering people, transforming, but as well as there is differences about what the market need at the first place. They would start from different pockets, but then they will end all together, that every segment of the industry will have a portion of its own digital transformation, I would say.
Yeah, I think the digital transformation is the component, the most important thing for everything we're doing, how do we put this together. So one of the things that you guys have, even for people looking to the website, which we're going to add in the description below where you're listening to us, so libf.ac.uk.
Yes, so, and LIB, and also we have regional websites. So libf.ac.uk is for UK market, and then there's libf MENA, MENA.ac.uk for the region, and we have LIBF APAC for the Asia Pacific market.ac.uk.
Fantastic, thank you so much. So you mentioned the importance of digital transformation, and together with this comes the new concept that is becoming right now mainstream, that is ESG. I know that is one area that you guys are very researching, and of course with the 40,000 young people that are students of your organization and 120 countries, that is your data, and 140 years is quite impressive number. So let's look, how do you teach ESG, and especially how you define ESG for people listening to us, because I think it's a very complex subject. We're still in the early days, but it's a key element for finance, and especially for all the business around the world.
The short answer is yes. And the ESG is spread in most of our education qualifications as we can. In postgraduate degrees, we have specialized in sustainability and sustainable finance, where we go into deep details on ESG, definitions and correlation to the UN global goals. In other qualification in international banking and finance, we talk about sustainability and ESG. In executive education and training programs, we as well talk about ESG. Let's now try to define ESG, environmental, social, governance. See, it's still like it's very important to take that from a country level to a corporation level to a individual level. Yeah. And if we talk about banking and finance industry, what represent the government for us is the regulators. The regulators, by empowering the industry through frameworks, regulations, to support the good practice of ESG, to regulate the mandate of CSR and ESG reporting. It's very essential. Then we move to the banks level. Unless the education element and the belief and the understanding of the business opportunity and embracing ESG, delivering products on retail, corporate level, and even investment and fund management level from banks on ESG is not nice to have, and it's not just a extension to the brand to show, but also there is a business opportunity in this. One of the major examples is the recent research on consumer behavior in North America. And the recent research on consumer behavior in North America proved that age 35 and below, their appetite is to become customers for companies that have an ESG policy, an ESG mandate, and ESG objectives. So, and we're speaking about those companies that would donate or support planting trees, building schools in Africa, and those kind of things would tend to have more younger generation customer than its own competitors who don't have that kind of mandate within their own policy. As an individual, it's very important also as well to be actively able to participate in the ESG movement. So we're talking about you as a citizen. What is your footprint in your own city, in your own country, and in your own continent? So making sure of the use of the right environmentally friendly products, making sure that socially contributing, because also ESG, a lot of people map it to the environment only. They don't map it even to the social contribution, which is very important element. We will talk about how the institute also embrace the ESG. So that's also about what's your social contribution, supporting needy, supporting people around you. That's also very important. And then as an employee for banking and finance, I'm speaking about practitioners, colleague on banking and finance, how we can, in our day-to-day job with customers, with our even transactions, being more conscious of our ESG individually, unless this ecosystem is dynamically communicating between government to corporations to individuals. I would say that a major sustainability transformation is still going to be under pressure. We as London Institute of Banking and Finance, we don't believe only on the environmental, which is very important, and we do practice on that, and we talk about it, and we research it. So I'm not trying to diminish this, but I'm trying to draw the attention to the importance of the social contribution. Financial inclusion and financial education for underprivileged, for even the wider community. It's an integral part of how we feel about our ESG. Why? Because if we make education available on banking and finance for more people around the world, we will be able through that helping people save their own financial future. We know all that financial difficulties is one of the major social pressures that anyone in life can meet, regardless of their education or background. You know, it could lead people to psychological challenges, social challenges. And even in some cases, we heard about people who commit suicide because financial difficulties, people getting bankrupt, families getting into divorce ratios, high divorce ratios in some countries with new financial crisis. And also, not everything about digital transformation is positive. Now with the social media being in the #1 outlet for marketing, it made it very easier for companies to market for products and add more pressures on families and individuals on goods and purchase, and that's what put people in difficulties. And then with the losing credit bureau systems, people get more credit than they should have, and they don't understand the complications of managing credit. Then that's all the story we're talking about gets in. So we feel actively as an institute the importance of being very active in the center of improving the financial inclusion and financial literacy around the jurisdictions we operate, and even as an active institute of the world. That's very important, from programs delivered to farmers in Africa, to underprivileged in the Middle East, to school students in the UK. And still there is much more to do in that topic. We speak about statistics from the World Bank that still there is an unbankable population of at least 45% of the world's citizens. Now we have reached 8 billion. So I would say 45% of that, close to 3.5 billion people don't have access to financial means or financial instruments. So that's even basically is a challenge for financial inclusion. So still there is a long way for us to go.
Yeah, it's gold what you just said. So the importance of ESG, and I'll recap for people listening to us, the importance of the personal, the business, and the corporate, and as well the social. But as well, you touch a very important thing that is very dear to me, is financial inclusion and financial literacy. So like you said, over 1.7 billion people are financially excluded. But if you look at financial inclusion or financial literacy, probably we have 60 to 70%. So one of the questions that I want to ask you is, for people listening to us, and of course my podcast is quite sophisticated people, otherwise they won't come for a business and a technology podcast. But my question is, for you that you are a professional educator and you deal with the best people in the world in different areas, what would be the advice for people that you especially give for continuous education, which is a key element, especially for the likes of us that are more professionals, because there's a continuous lack of education that we have to do. And I know that you have a lot of initiatives for corporates, for even society. I would like for you to touch that, both from your advice, but as well from some initiatives where people can evolve.
I will try to draw here into my human resources hat. And I would say continuous education is what makes us feel like we're still living. And education is, there is no end for education, age or even knowledge-wise. I would say initially try to find your pattern of education. Some people will learn a lot by listening to the podcasts, for example, that some example of what we did today. And there's a lot of other interesting podcasts around the world. Which I call them the extrovert learning profiles, through the videos, channels, media. But try to make sure of the validation of the information you go through. Make sure that you're listening to verified and validated individuals. Make sure that you read the right publications around the internet, especially the internet, because the internet, there is a huge challenge about qualified information and verified information. So it's very important that you make sure that you are around the right resources. Or if you are more of an academic or an practitioner education profile, find the right institutes, the right education provider where you can continue your education journey with it. I also as well say that it's very important to, as we say, as a financial savvy or expert, if we claim that it's very important to diversify your portfolios, it's very important to diversify your educational resources. And there is more for you to learn from younger generation than actually learn from elder generations as well. So don't discount any one of your learning journey. So that's mostly is my advice, is if one of us is a C-level, for example, and you fresh grad colleague walk to you, who was a millennial born in 2001 or 2, because now they are our colleagues, and have an idea or trying to comment about a transaction that doesn't make sense for you, don't reject it. Listen to it, because actually there is more learning opportunities out of that than maybe reading 200 different books, because this is how mostly it is important. So initially, find your pattern of education. Second thing, diversify your education resources. Third thing, have an open mindset to all information around you. Unless you become democratic in your education patterns, you wouldn't find or access the hidden talent in yourself, which is very important.
Wise words. And I think it's we're wrapping up, and I think it's 1 hour, so I want to be respectful of your time. So last thing, so for people listening to us, and I think on this level of advice, and especially, for instance, one of the things that I look a lot is for seasonal education, because of course it's impossible for us to go and take another MBA or master or another education. And a lot of the challenge I face is our business people can actually keep having like workshops, seminars, and things like that. And I know that you do a lot of things on the school. So can you highlight how people listening to us can actually get into this? I always like to make a kind of a practical side experience, because that makes a big difference. And they actually can create a lot of suggestions, because sometimes a simple workshop or webinar can make a big difference. I'm every day studying this myself. And that's the most important thing that I find in business, is they keep both engagement, learning, but as well engaging with other peers. So I know that the school has a lot of initiatives on that. If you could highlight, and as well promote whatever is available for us to engage.
Thank you for that question, Dennis. It's a very interesting question. We as an institute, we're trying to find solutions that cater to different learning patterns. So if you are a person who would like publications and reading, so we have our Financial World magazine, we have our white paper issued periodically and frequently about topics in fintech, digital transformation, banking and finance, risk and governance. And if you're more of the audio, video educator, you can find our podcast channels, our web pages, and our video recordings available on LinkedIn, YouTube's, and other resources. Financial World magazine is always available on our website, libf.ac.uk, so you can read all the earlier publications. Also on our website's news sections, you will find all the publications related to the most recent white paper, research papers, or practitioner-led papers that we have written. That's mostly very technical, practitioner-based papers. We also are very one of the most close to heart actions for ourselves as an institute is to receive feedback. So write to us, write on to our email accounts, through contacts us on the website as well, to tell us about your feedback about the white papers, or we have missed something, or we have to add something, or we have to look after something as an institute. Because unless we have that kind of feedback, we wouldn't improve as an institute. So we're open always to feedback, to listen to our community and our alumni and people to engage. So I would appreciate if our audience today would be able to connect with us on our social media channels, so they can get aware of the newsletters and publications, and as well videos and webinars, events that are open for public. You can register on it at any point of time to be able to attend.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. We're going to put this information, and I think hopefully will be more initiatives with the organization, because it's a very important thing. And even me, for the ones listening to me, I'm always looking for learning, and I think it's key to participate on this, because a lot of things is people talk but they don't act. So yes. Thank you so much, Kareem. I don't know if there's any last remote or any kind of call to action that you have, final part. There's a lot of questions, but I think we'll have a follow-up call.
Yes, I would thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity. Yourself and your team, you guys are doing I would call it now, an interesting move in the industry, that your followers and audience should stay tuned with more information from your side and from your ecosystem, I would call it as of now. And hopefully there will be more opportunities for our institute and yourself and the team to collaborate in more initiatives that support the industry.
Thank you. That's the idea, and I appreciate as well the time you dedicated to us. And we definitely will be collaborating with you guys, because I think education is key, both on education, but as well people listening. So just to wrap up, Kareem is as well quite sick after, so you can actually find a lot of information about him. But the London Institute of Banking and Finance, it's a great organization to engage, especially if you're interested in fintech, in finance, and education, which is, I think, everyone should be if you are a business person. Thank you so much, Kareem. I wish you a great day and a great week, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, Dennis.